how did you discover your passion for music?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in a very musical family, oriented family. My dad always played records when I was growing up. It's very cliche. It's a cliche thing to say I grew up around music, surrounded by music, but I did. It's like really I'm really grateful that I did actually because my mom was always into music. She was always into like singer songwriters. So I was Nora Jones was always playing around the car every time we did errands, ran errands, and my dad would always play his favorite rock bands, 70s rock bands, when I was going over to the East Bay growing up in San Francisco. So and my brother was very into R&B and rap, so he would always play that around the house. So it was just a mixture of different types of music growing up, and eventually, like I've stated this before, but like I never got to do sports when I was younger. My parents never let me. It's I used to like resent them for it. I was like, why can't I do sports? Like everybody else, all my friends are doing sports, and like I just want to like play basketball, and they're like, no, it's too dangerous for you. Like, yeah, like they wouldn't let me do anything. Like I couldn't even do like they were like maybe track. I'm like track, like I can't even do track. I have asthma, so it's like it was like I never got to do anything remotely close to sports growing up, like in high school or elementary. So it was always music for me. Like my dad would always push me and encourage me to play instruments. So drums were my first ever instrument to play. I mean, like he would enroll me in lessons, and then I'd take countless hours just practicing drums, and like he would send me songs and give me songs to practice. And he'd always tell me the same thing, like if you learn this song, like you'd be a great drummer. Like every he would like give me different types of songs each time, and then I'd learn them and then play them, and then eventually we had a family band going on. So then I was the drummer, my dad was the guitarist, my brother was the bassist, and then after that I actually joined my own rock band because I went to school for drumming, so then I had to join my own rock band over there. And then after that I left that band and created my own band managed by my dad while I was in high school. So I was a high school student, not playing sports. Basically, didn't do anything in high school, but just to go to high school and like mingle and like, because everybody around my high school was like, it was a sports centered high school. So everybody was like, like football's life, basketball's life, and I was just over here like I'm just gigging every weekend, doing gigs and like in and around the Bay Area. So that was me. That was my life. My high school experience growing up. And then so after that, like idol hit, and I basically just dropped everything. Like I dropped band, dropped school, and then I pursued that. And that's when I realized I wanted to do music as a career. And I kind of just fell in love with songwriting around that time. So songwriting, so that sparked up my songwriting and like me wanting to learn more as an artist, not just as a contestant on a vocal reality television show. So I was always thinking ahead. I was thinking like what's going to happen after this? Like, what am I going to do after this? Like, how am I going to expand further as an artist after this? How am I supposed to keep the leverage, So that's basically how it kind of all came about. I started doing gigs and started singing around age 12, and that all happened when I was younger. So it all kind of just went from there. Never got to do sports though, so that was it's fine now. Now I look back at it now. I'm like thanking my parents that they didn't force me to do sports or like want me to do sports, because I don't think I'd be that my talents as a basketball player or a football player would even shine after high school or during college, because none of that would even matter. So yeah. I'm actually really happy where I am right now is what I'm trying to say. So I'm really thankful that they didn't force me to or encourage me to do that stuff. So yeah.
When you look at your career as a whole, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
Uh, Personally and professionally, most definitely, I always name drop her all the time, but I mean it every time I say it. It's Maggie Rogers. She really just influenced me. Like, I remember I was going through such a dark time in 2019. It was even before Idol started, so I was just going through it. I was in college. I was a college student studying law, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was lost. I was like literally so lost, and I didn't know where I wanted my life to go. And then I remember one summer, it was Coachella. it was Coachella season, and like I checked the set list. I wasn't gonna go, but like, I just checked the set list, and then I came across Maggie Rogers, and I found her artist page on Spotify, and I listened to her EP, and oh my god, like the songwriting, the production, like blew me away. Like it was like a breath of fresh air for me, and I was super just astounded. I was like, what the hell is this? You know, like this is so different to what I usually listen to. So then that basically shifted my love in different genres of music, like folk music and like acoustic music and just acoustic music in general, which basically transfers on to my own artistry. I love acoustic music. I love incorporating that into my own work. And yeah, so she basically inspired me to songwrite on a serious level, because I was songwriting before then, but then it was just stupid random songs about like, you know, the girl in my college ethnic class, something like that. Like, you know, it was just something, never really something that I really thought that was going to be serious, until I heard her music, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can actually take my own feelings into account and write them down and sing them out. Like I didn't realize that it was so powerful, but it was very therapeutic and very cathartic for me. So definitely Maggie Rogers for sure. And funnily enough, like she hit me up, and that was a full circle moment. I always brag about it because it's such a like endearing moment. I'm like, oh my god, she like watched my audition, and she like knows who I am, and like I love her. Like I love Maggie Rogers, so I'm like, damn, like that's crazy as fuck. Like I'm just super, super grateful that
Yeah,
she even got to watch it. So yeah.
love that. Like you were just saying, you recently finished in the top five on American Idol. When you look back at that experience, what do you remember most?
Um, Most definitely the people, like not even just the contestants, like the production, uh and the production crew, and like the executive producers, everybody on there, like the judges, and like and Ryan Seacrest and the contestants, just make the whole entire experience like way better. Like everybody's so nice and kind. Like you meet so many great new people with different walks of life. Like before that, like I was just like a local kid in San Francisco who hadn't been or in like outside of like the areas of like California. You know, like, I've been around like all around like the West Coast, but I've never really been around East Coast. I've never met people from the East Coast. I've never been really far, so I've never been to Hawaii before, and I went for Hawaii for Idol. You know, like just different experiences that I actually came across, and none of them would have been as memorable if it wasn't for the people. You know, so that definitely really shaped my artistry and who I am as a person coming out of Idol. Just meeting so many good friends. I'm still such good friends with so many of the contestants, and I keep tabs, and we all keep in touch, and I still hang out with some of the production crew, so it's dope.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at that experience, what was the biggest lesson that you learned that you've now been able to apply to your career?
Most definitely to work hard, and like never really take things for granted, because like the career I'm in right now is definitely where I want to be, you know. And I always wake up every day feeling blessed, and like feeling super grateful that I'm doing what I'm doing. I get to make music for a living, kind of wake up and do it again, and meet new people during these writing sessions. I've been doing a lot of writing sessions, and yeah, so Idol really teach me to like just work, have a great work ethic, and just always be on your game, and like never take what you're doing for granted, because at the end of the day, like I could not picture myself doing anything else. You know, it's like crazy to think that I had my life set up as a lost, like just like, all right, I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna go to
Mhm.
school, that's it. And like it's crazy how that just shifted over like a year, and I'm like super happy that that happened, and I'm grateful, and I can't be thankful enough for that. So yeah.
Okay, you've said in a recent interview that songwriting is relatively new to you. What's the creative process like when you're working on a new song, and how easy or challenging is it to tap into kind of that vulnerability?
Um, I'm a very sensitive and emotional person in general. Like, it's just it's so funny. Like, I can never really control my own emotions when I'm around people, especially when it affects me to a greater degree. So I'm like always like in general, I'm just a very sensitive and emotional person and a vulnerable person, because I put myself in those situations. And yeah, I'm very new to songwriting, because like I said, like a year ago, I was writing songs like just because, you know, I just didn't really have any serious uh, motivations to actually do it. So then when I actually started seriously songwriting, I was like, man, I can take my own feelings that I'm feeling inside and these own accounts that I have experienced and write about them. And like, that feels good. You know, like I don't really have to be like keeping him bottled inside and like kind of have to like talk it out. Instead of talking it out, I think of it as like a diary for me. Like I'm not really good at expressing things in words to people, like explaining what I'm feeling or like why I'm feeling it or what happened to me. Like I kind of love to write about it and sing it out, you know, and like create music for it and like, you know, like produce it and just like produce what I'm generally feeling around that time. And it's cool because I listen back to the songs I write and then I'm like, wow, I was in that moment, in that feeling, and now I'm in a totally different feeling in the present. You know, it's great to actually look back at the past and see how much I've changed as a person. So yeah, it's a very therapeutic thing for me. So I'm very happy that it isn't. I wouldn't say it comes easy because the creative process is very limited to me sometimes because I feel like I get in my own head and I always think ahead and I always overthink the situation and the process. Like I never really am satisfied with what I do most of the time because I always feel like there's something more to be done or something better to be done. And like most of the time I just need to take a step back and be like, all right, this is done. Like stop fucking around with it, stop messing with it. You know, this is done. You know, this is not something to negotiate for me because I always feel like I need something else. Like I always need to like work on something, whether it be the songwriting, like the production or something like that. And I feel like that's something I need to take out of the equation because I just want to have fun. You know, I want to have fun while making the music and creating the music, and like it just should be all about fun. So I'm just working on that basically. Yeah, but to answer your question in a short answer, because I know I was just rambling on. The creative process is fairly fun and I wouldn't say easy, but it's never really hard for me to say what I really want to say, especially when I'm feeling something very that's kind of sorry, like taking over me like in that moment. And yeah, so like I said, I'm never really great at explaining what I'm feeling to a person. So I love to like write it down on paper, really take into account if there was like an intimate moment that I really remember, because I'm a very observant person. I love observing situations. I just can't help it. You know, I love looking around the room and seeing what happened and like seeing what another person's doing, like, you know, and then I love taking those little things and putting them into my songs because it just makes it more memorable to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened that day. And I'm like, oh, that also happened, that memory. And yeah, so then I write it all down, and then melody for sure comes really quick to me, I guess, because I'm a go person. Lyrics sometimes, like I'll write down what I feel, but then I'll definitely revise it later on. Like I definitely don't like to stop or ponder on a lyric because I just feel like it just stops and hinders everything else. You know, like I feel like everything after that has to wait because I'm thinking about a line that should just come naturally. Then I can fix it on later. You know, so after that, all that jazz is done. Like I just hop into producing or like seeing how I want it to sound sonically. You know, so yeah, and I definitely always take inspiration from my biggest favorites like Phineas and like Jack Antonoff. Like I always listen to their records and like people who I'm listening to right now. I get super inspired. So it like helps me out, like to not be overindulged in my own work and kind of like listen to other people's work and kind of get inspired off that. And yeah, I always love when like new releases come too around the time where I'm like trying to be creative. Like just now, like Taylor Swift just like dropped like a new album, which I'm like, whoa. Like I wasn't a big Taylor Swift fan, but like when I heard Folklore and the production, I'm a big Aaron Dessner fan from The National, my favorite band right now. And yeah, I was literally, it was like inspiration all around, because when I heard that record, I was like, oh my God, this is dope. So then like I was basically just in a songwriting mode every time that happens. Every time somebody new, somebody that I really love, an artist I really love, drops something really new, I get really excited because I'm like, oh my God, like I get to hear like the melodies and like the different chords and the production, and like I get really excited. So then because it transfers on to my own music,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, oh, now it's time to make my own music, and I get really excited. It's just another, like, and Shawn Mendes just released something too, and I'm like really into it. It's like, it's dope. It's different. I love listening to different types of music in general. So anything new in general inspires me. So yeah.
Yeah, you also just released your debut single. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about Swollen and what inspired that song?
Yeah. So Swollen is like, I always think of my songs as like little diary entries, and like Swollen is like definitely one of the first songs that I've written that I would like to call that my first diary entry, because like I literally started that song as like my first serious song, because I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down. It happened. So the story behind it, before I even get into that, the story behind it with Swollen is it's just like, I literally was in a room during the show, in a holding room. It like, I'm revealing this now because it's been so much time has passed, and like it's just not really cool to say that I've been like in another room, or like I've been like I'm being very discreet about it basically, but then I'm just kind of being open about it now. But yeah, so I wrote about this cool girl that I met on the show, and shout out to you, wherever you are. You're probably gonna watch this or hear about this, because I don't know, I've been literally sharing it, and like, all right, I'm need to stop. I need to ramble, recenter myself, and talk about the story. Sorry. See, my ADHD is like kicking up again. But yeah, so Swollen is about this one day when I was on Idol, and I was in a holding room, and it was around December, so a year from now. I wrote it a year from now, and yeah, so it was around the time. Actually, this week actually was when I wrote it. A week from last year. So it's literally last year, and when this happened, and I met this girl, and I came up to this girl. She was like really cool. I was like, man, she's really pretty girl. I kind of want to get to know her, you know? And I went up to her, and like, kind of like, we just hung out for a whole day, and like got to know each other. Like, we talked about music, talked about life in general, just some basic stuff. And, you know, then, but in my head, I was like, man, I'm like really falling in love with the idea of this person. Like, she's great. Like, she's awesome. Like, she was kind of sick that day too. So then, and she had to sing after that. So I was kind of taking care of her, trying to like help her out, encourage her to be like, nah, like everything's gonna be great. And like, we started singing each other's songs. Like, it was a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe. And I got really inspired during that time, because I was like, damn, this is like something that I'm probably gonna be thinking about like next week, or like a couple days later. And then she ended up not making it through. And then I was like, oh man, that sucks. I wasn't sad though. I was like just super bummed out. And yeah, so when she left, I was like thinking about it like for the past like couple of days, and I knew that I was going to be doing that, and I just couldn't really shake off that feeling. And I was like, man, like I hate how I'm in this feeling right now, because I know that nothing's going to happen from this experience, you know? Like, she lives far away. I live far away from her too, but I have her number, and like I have her socials. I follow her Instagram. Nothing's really going to happen, I feel like. So then I'm just going to be sulking in this feeling. So then I just really resorted to just being like, okay, I need to write down these feelings for sure. Like, I wrote it down and like mapped out everything that happened that day. Like I said, like I was being very observant. I can't really help being observant. So I was writing down all the things that happened that day. So most of the things that happened in that song are true. Like, I wrote down every little nuance and every little thing that she did, or like, and I kind of overexpanded it and made it more fictionalized. And yeah, so to this day though, she doesn't know that it's about her. And it's like really funny, because I'm like, it's been a year, and like I released it. It was my first release since the show, and I've been like, there's 3 different versions now. There's like the original, the acoustic, and the duet, which just released like a couple days ago. And it's really cool, like how a lot of people are like covering it and like, you know, like loving it and like supporting it. And it's just cool. It's funny because I follow her Instagram, and I post all that stuff, and like she has no clue, or I might be assuming that she has no clue, but it's it's just really funny to think about, because I'm like, I haven't said anything. I've never really spoken to her in a while. Like, so it's not like we talk often. So it's not really like, if I had told her, she'll probably be like, what, really? Like, it never would have caught that or realized that. So like, if she's watching, or she realized it by now, like, yeah, the song's about you. and I'm like been very discreet about it, but it just doesn't make sense to be discreet about it because it's one of my first releases, so I'm really happy about that. And yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, like you were just saying, you just released a new rendition
mhm.
with your good friend Julia. How did that come to fruition?
Actually, me and Julia, it's funny. We're really good friends now, but on the show we didn't even talk to each other like at all. Like it was like really funny. We always hung out in the same group, but we never really like. It was never really like a hey, like it was like it was just we'd say hey, but we never really talk, you know. And then when we both got signed under the same label, and then we're on the same team, we actually started getting really close because we were on the same label. We did writing sessions together, so we got to know each other even more and more. And then one day, me and my manager and my team were just talking about like different things we can do with this campaign, and like they were like, "What if you did a duet?" I'm like, "Oh, that's sick. I want to do a duet. That's dope." And then they were giving me options, and I had my own options, and one of the options was Julia. And then like I was like, "Oh, that would be dope." I know Julia has a dope voice, and I know that me and her have like similar tones and like the similar sounds, and like we kind of have the same taste in music, you know. And like I was like, "That's perfect. I think that could work." So we asked her, and she sang on the demo, and then she sounded great. Like literally, I'm not even joking when I tell you that she is the most talented human ever. She was like hitting me with like different types of harmonies that I don't even know about. And then I was like, oh my God, this is great. So then I had finished the original record already. And then she sent out, I listened to the demo that she sent out. I listened to that, and then I fell in love with it instantly. And then I was like, great, can you send some like vocal stems out, and like we can make this happen? And she was like, yeah, for sure. And then it kind of just came really fast. She sent them the next day. I mixed them like the next day and like sent them over to the actual mixer. And it just sounded fucking awesome, honestly. And I was
Yeah.
super ecstatic about it. I actually started falling in love with that version more than the original, and I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God, I hate to say it, but I really love this version. And then like my team really agreed with me, and I was like, dude, this is so good. And then she actually ended up being on the music video, which is actually really dope. Like the duet happened first, and then when I started filming around the time when I started filming the music video, my team was also like they kind of insisted again, like, what if she's like the girl in the music video? And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool because it ties in to each other. And so basically that's all how it went down. And now it's out there for everyone to hear, and now we're still really good friends, and we work with each other like every week. So it's dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. The single's been incredibly well received, and you were talking about kind of overthinking earlier. What has that response meant to you?
It's actually it's it means a lot because I'm like such an overthinker. I overthink everything. It's hard for me to take a compliment or like praise without taking it with a grain of salt because I literally overthink everything. I'm like, do you really like it? Like I literally send my mom records that I make, and she tells me she loves it, and I'm like, well, do you really like it? I'm like, I'm that type of person. Like I'm like not really. I can't take a compliment for like to save my life. It's not really something that I've been ingrained into like growing up. That's why nothing really. I always appreciate the compliments, and I love the praise that I get from different my supporters and like people who listen. I really love that. It's a great thing. So like I was actually just thinking the other day and telling my sister and my team the other day that it's actually weird seeing people like making covers on it,
Mm,
like actually singing to a song that I wrote, because I remember when I was writing it, like just writing it, like I wasn't even thinking about releasing it or like just having this weird like thing happening in my life right now where like I'm a musician and I'm like producing it and like releasing it for other people to hear. Never had that in my mind while I was writing it. So it keeps taking me back to that time when I first wrote it, and now people are like singing it. Like my good friends are singing in it. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, I'm like, it's such a milestone for me to hear people covering my songs and singing it and like loving it. I appreciate it so much. And that's the thing that I don't take for granted. I always take that, and it literally warms my heart every time I hear that. And like every day I'll come across like a new cover, and like I'll just like my heart swells up because I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy how it's happening. I always think back to the past when I was writing it, and then it takes me back there and makes me super emotional. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. So thank you guys for really loving the song and loving the record. Really appreciate that.
As we look ahead to 2021, what can fans expect from you? Are you working on a larger body of work?
Not a larger body of work. I'm still looking into releasing singles only for now, but I'm not opposed to that. I'm still like 2021. I don't know what's gonna happen then. Like anything can happen. So maybe in the near future, I decide maybe I can, and I'll do it. But then for now, I'm just doing singles, and I'm working on my next single as right now, and actually my third single. So both those singles I'm working on, and they're all being worked on here in this little this little small space. So it's great. I mean, like I love working here and like just staying home and like making
Yeah.
music, and then occasionally watching Netflix and just chilling, doing little Zoom chats with friends and family. It's honestly really it's comfortable and like really solemn around here. So I've been working on that, looking into more of the second single because I'm really going back and forth on it, whether or not I like where it's at. That's the big thing that I need to tackle down right now. And yeah, so look forward to more singles in 2021 because they're gonna be released around that time. So yeah.
Love it. And then we just like to end all of our interviews with a pop culture speed round. Is
Okay.
there a band or artist that fans would be surprised to learn is on your playlist?
Um. Yeah. Well, not surprised, but the National for sure. Because I feel like it's very the National is something that you would need to like sit down and listen to. Like you can't just take it all in one listen and kind of be
Hmm.
like, yeah, yeah, for sure. Like you'd need to like actually like digest everything. Like Matt Berninger's lyricism is like off the charts, and like the production. I mostly listen for the production, but yeah, it's a very I wouldn't say it's not weird because Taylor Swift like literally has been working with the National and Aaron Dessner, and like I'm actually really happy that that happened because I'm like two of my faves now. Like I love Taylor Swift now. The National, I've been loving them. Like it's great. That's like literally like my dream duo right now, and like nothing could be better than that by listening to both of them right now. So yeah,
What about the first album you ever bought?
first album I ever bought. Hmm. Oh, it's Chris Brown. I forget the title, but I'm a very big Chris Brown fan. So Chris Brown, but I forget the title. I think it was Off the Wall. I don't know. No, that's not Off the Wall. That's Michael Jackson. I really don't. I really don't remember. It was Chris Brown. I remember. It was a CD. And I bought it at a Target. So I just can't remember the lyric, the title. But yeah.
What about the first concert you ever attended?
Actually, you're gonna think I'm lame, but I've never been to an actual concert before. I actually have been to like local concerts, but not like one headlined by like a big artist or like a known artist. You're gonna think I'm lame, but
That's a
yeah,
fun fact.
yeah. Never been to an actual like concert before. I mean, like local concerts they kind of don't count, but yeah.
What about an album that changed your life and why?
Definitely heard it in the past life for sure. Maggie Rogers. You know why? Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I name drop her all the time, but it's just like so true. Like I wouldn't be here like as a songwriter or as an artist without her. Like it's just well that and for sure Battle Studies by John Mayer and Room for Squares by John Mayer. And John Mayer is also a very huge influence, and I love both those albums. I literally listen to them all the time. And just I love to find little nuances in the records. Like I didn't even know in Alaska there was like people like I mean people probably didn't hear this, but in the intro there's like a person talking in Alaska and it's just loops.
Oh,
But I like
cool.
to find little Easter eggs or like little nuances in like records, and it makes the process and like the listening way more fun for me. But yeah.
What about a venue that's on your bucket list to perform at?
Oh, who actually would really love to like perform at like I can't even say it. Anywhere like that has like I know the last bookstore in LA like has this like really cool like vibe. I would love to perform somewhere like that. I know it's such a weird answer, but like that's definitely my vibe. Like just having like an old rusty bookstore, like and have like a stage on there. Like um, I'm more like looking towards like venues. Like it's not a venue, but it's like a place that's supposed to be for something,
Yeah,
but then
kind of out of the box.
yeah, basically. I that's more my vibe. I like doing I want to do something like that. I've never actually played a live show for my songs yet. Like I've done live streams, but I've never done like a live show. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I just picture myself like in a bookstore, like the last bookstore in LA, just like I've only been there once, but I fell in love in there. And like I love books. So yeah, and I can't even answer that question because I've only been to like a few venues. Like I've been to like the Roosevelt Hotel venue. I've been like the Orpheum, and that's pretty much it. I'm like I'm super new to all this stuff, and it's like so not. It's actually really nice to learn all these things while as I'm developing. So I'll get back to you on an answer. Like that definitely was not a good answer, but
No,
I'll give.
that's a great answer.
Oh,
I
thanks,
like that.
thanks. Yeah,
And then final question for you: when you're on the road, what's a must-have?
a must-have trail mix for sure.
Hmm.
I love trail mix. I think more people should look into trail mix. The actual like the OG trail mix, so with M&Ms, peanuts, raisins, and all that good jazz. But sesame seeds too with the trail mix. But I can't really go on a road trip or like anything like on the road. If I'm going on the road to like travel somewhere, I just need some trail mix. I love trail mix. But yeah.